Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you, INSAP, for having me this morning to share our thoughts on areas of priority as Malaysia prepare for the new normal in the 12 Malaysia Plan. And in today's section, I will be highlighting some of the global scenario, and then we move on to what should expect from Malaysia and what should be considered in the 12 Malaysia Plan. I think Malaysia, being a small and open economy, remains vulnerable to major economic, social, political, and environmental shifts. And the COVID-19 has swept across the world, leaving a trail of social, economic, and business damages. The world after post-COVID-19, to me, is unlikely to return to the world that we used to be. And many trends already underway in the global economy are being accelerated by the impact of the pandemic. This, among others, include the digital economy, the structural changes which we are seeing now in terms of regionalization of the supply chain, and further implosions of the cross-border data flows. So how would that impact on Malaysia? The implication, the amplifying of this trend would have positive effects or possible effects on long-term choices for the economy and society. And that choices will range between the role of government, the role of institution, the way we are living. What we want is a sustainable living environment, and also a structural change, including in terms of the industrial policy. And there is also a long-term shift in how the government and institutions support the people through social safety nets, universal basic income, and a more inclusive social contract. So to us Malaysians and all the stakeholders in Malaysia, what will remain critical is the need for collective actions of all the stakeholders to reset Malaysia economy that can deliver inclusive economic growth and prosperity for all. So what will the future look like? First thing, the way I see the global environment and the global marketplace, the society will move towards nationalism, isolationism, protectionism, or we are talking about international cooperation, multilateral cooperation. I think the signing of RCEP signifies that the global free trade is still somewhat alive rather than the so-called protectionism in the advanced economy. The second is about the strong government will continue to intervene to support the domestic economy and industry, and we may see harmonization of trade and engagement rule, but there are challenges in terms of issue and the security protection regards to the use of digital technology, data sharing, privacy standards, and internet governance. In terms of the business landscape, we are likely to see continued digital disruptors that will create a lot of competition between the traditional industry, the SME, or even with the offline industry. And the digital acceleration will continue to accelerate, and that will reshape further the whole business landscape. And we may see market continue to consolidate within the industry. Some may survive and some may continue to make the necessary adjustment. So in a nutshell, the highly competitive business landscape will see small and large companies competing from within the ecosystem or also outside the reference industry. So in terms of market regulation, obviously what the investor needs, the government to continue to enhance the good investment climate in terms of providing friendly and predictable regulatory environment. And we believe that over-regulation may stifle innovation and risk-taking activity in the current market environment, more so after the post-COVID-19. And in terms of industry convergence, are we seeing more convergence or divergence among the different sectors of the industry? Finance and telco and e-commerce may converge, energy and automotive may converge, and they also continue digital disruptor. The last one is about the innovation and digital trends. I think the global and regional drivers for product and business innovation will continue to reshape the whole business and competitive landscape. And I believe Asia will continue to emerge as the main driver of global innovation, given the dominance power likely to be accorded to China in terms of the technology innovation and technology inferences in terms of global landscape. And new innovation will continue to scale up quickly across the global and also within the regional environment. And last point is about upskilling technology, skill set enhancement, which I think we as a Malaysia, we have to continue to focus the priority on education, reskilling and upskilling, and manpower planning. So look at given the post-COVID global environment, which I painted just now, how would that impact on Malaysia, the 12 Malaysia Plan, which is built on the shared prosperity, sustainability, and competitiveness. I think first of all, the focus point, we have to start to think about where we want Malaysian economy to be in 2025 and beyond. For sure, I think the original target to achieve a high income nation is a tall order now, given the post-COVID environment. And all the stakeholders, whether it's the government, the business sector, individual, household, NGO, have to take stock and reflect. As what our previous speaker mentioned, that we have to review what have we done wrong and how to improve further. Should we start a new models of the economic planning? And we have to look beyond the current uncertainty and start to reimagine a very different future and think about how best we can position ourselves, whether as a government or whether as an individual, the business and household, to compete in a very competitive manner in the new challenges and opportunity. I think it's good that the 12 Malaysia Plan is based on a shared prosperity vision, but the challenge going forward is to how to set what we intend to respond in a fair, sustainable way and harnessing the opportunity. We can keep on saying that we want to have sharing of prosperity, but in what way? What are the mechanisms to ensure that it's an equitable development for all? So I think the government will need to undertake bold and decisive fiscal and economic reform. Why? Because in order to strengthen our economic resilience and have a better prospect for the business and investment. So we need to address the current structural weakness and impediments and vulnerability. We are still trapped in the middle income trajectory. We have limited fiscal firepower that show the COVID-19, the government has run out of reserve in terms of the budget's reserve to sustain the recovery. We continue to see low investment in ICT, slowing productivity growth. Export capacity still need to be uplifted, and also the shortage of skilled manpower. So what will fundamentally transform the Malaysian economy? I think the first thing, we need to redefine the role of government, the role of GLC, and the role of GLC, the GLICS investment. I think reforming public sector delivery services will have to continue to become an effective facilitator. And GLC, which I will leave it to Professor Terence Gomez to share with us, basically we should focus on building strong institutions, spearheading new growth areas to open up for private sector, as well as develop areas based on policy needs. And we also have to revive economy on the basis of sustainability, based on the leverage on the deployment of digitalisation, enhance our education system, and also skill human capital development and prepare our workforce for the right skill set to do the job of the future. That will be certainly the first priority. And we also need to address the income inequality between states and regional development gap, which our previous speaker, Senator Datuk Robelau, talking about between Sabah and Sarawak, and also the poorer state in Kelantan. And the last one is about competitiveness, innovation, and environmental sustainability, which is important. I think from now onwards, we will start educating our people the importance of ESG, the importance of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, so that our business and industry are able to compete in an increasingly complexity global marketplace. So with that, based on what our thoughts and our proposal to the government, I think the Trust Malaysia Plan should premise on 5 strategic thrusts. The first one is to ensure fiscal stability, to provide you the fiscal flexibility or firepower to deal with future economic shock, and that will ensure a more stable growth going forward. Second is to unlock new sources of growth riding on the IR4, the various digitalization platform, in order to diversify Malaysia's growth away from too concentration on the resource base, but at the same time to up value the skill of technology in those new industry. And third thrust is to reinforce the competitiveness and productivity nexus. The fourth one is to adopt smart and digital technology-driven investment, including the green growth and green investment. And the last, fifth thrust is to education and upskilling workforce for the future. So these are the 2 slides which I will share with you, the 12 priority that we submitted to the government and also to the INSAP for them to convey our inputs from ACCRN in terms of what should be the initiative in the Trust Malaysia Plan. I think the first one is equity in development. Equity is central to development, but the policy priorities for achieving it are not consistently and coherently explored. I think there are 3 areas of priority: equal life chances, equal concern for people needs, and meritocracy. And the second one is fiscal reforms to build sustainable fiscal buffer. I think this is important. The lesson of the COVID-19 underscore the need for the government to continue to build fiscal buffer for future shocks. And that to rebuild the fiscal buffer for rainy day, I think it's time for us to draw a map line to show the commitment that government is willing to put aside all the concern about the political backlash and do the right thing to consolidate the budget after the pandemic when the economy starting to recover. That includes broaden the tax base, plugging the shadow economy, and also move away from direct taxes to indirect taxes. At the same time, we need to reform the whole public sector, not just area in the right sizing of the civil service, but looking into the public sector pension reform, shifting from the entitlement to contribution base, and rationalize the whole public sector employee, but with a view of optimizing the delivery services. That also include in terms of strengthening, consolidate the social safety network based on targeted needs and income base. Caring for the vulnerable, which is also part of the whole system in order to support and protect the low and middle income household. There's a need for us to relook at the existing social safety net. We have to build a very reliable database in order to implement a targeted based on needs and income, and also protect the underserved society, including those what I call the single employer. I think the other pillar is about revitalize private investment, especially DDI. I think we welcome FDI, but at the same time, we must continue to support the DDI, which has been displaying declining trend over the last few years. I think in this respect, we have proposed a number of measures. I think in nutshell, it's about enhance the good investment climate and also a predictable regulatory environment, the 3 C's: clarity, consistency, and continuity. I think based on the latest World Bank study, when they survey 2,400 CEOs in emerging markets, the findings show that low taxes, low labor costs, and abundant resources matter less for investment decision as compared to you need a macro and political stability as well as a predictable and transparent regulatory environment to support the private investment. And it's time for us to look at all aspects of the regulatory reform at the federal, states, and local authority. I think we need to ease the business pain point for the business sector when they deal with the regulator. That includes delay in the approvals, long time approval process, inconsistency, confusion. So these are the areas which we hope the government under the 12 Malaysia Plan must continue to improve the regulator and business, what I call the connectivity, to ease the business pain point. I think businesses are welcome for some regulation compliance, but what matters most to them is to spend less time and resources on compliance. The one on securing green growth or investment. A business as usual investment will not lead to a stable future unless we can achieve environmental and sustainability goals. I think this involves re-evaluating the investment priority, shifting the incentive, and investment grade policy. Productivity unplugged. I think boosting productivity growth is a very critical part of our long-term structural reform. I think productivity is something that we continue to lag behind, compare ourselves to some of the advanced economy and even economy within the ASEAN, like Singapore or even like Taiwan out of ASEAN. I think first of all, I continue to believe that we should remove some of the entry barriers and market liberalization to foster a healthy competition. The remaining 6 priority is e-commerce and digitalization. I think here is the game, the name, it will remain the trend, and it's critical for Malaysia government to create an investment-friendly tax, legal and regulatory environment for digital services. I think what we lack of is a better connectivity in terms of the speeds and reliability of the coverage. And we also have to narrow the digital divide between the rural and urban. I think on this front, we hope the government would expedite the National Fiberization and Connectivity Plan, which costs about 21 billion over the next 5 years. On technology adoption, we must enhance the STI support to SME. I think SME is a core pillar to support the whole industrial development as we move towards IR4. I think it's time for us to look at how to reform the R&D. What is the right balance between fundamental and applied research? There are studies saying that if you are over concentration on commercialization of the R&D, to some extent, it may stifle some activity of innovation. These are something that we have to think about, and how to make sure that the R&D commercialization, that we can get the right partner in the right market and the right time. Yeah. Now, on uplifting SME capacity and participation on global value chain, I think we have to continue to facilitate and incentivize domestic SME to participate in global value chain. With the signing of RCEP, there is opportunity for us to take on this regional global value chain, along with the support of the right policy and facilitation support from the relevant agency and also ministry. I think we need to promote industrial value added creation and upgrading, and also strengthening the domestic SME absorptive capacity. On education and manpower planning, I don't think I need to say much. Basically, we have to relook at the education system. The policy, we have to aim to strengthen the knowledge and technological capacity for innovation. What we need to focus on is to encourage more students to enroll in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, STEM. The coding of is important for us to build our strength in the areas of IR4. Okay. On holistic foreign workers management, I think the stand from industry is very clear. We will continue to reduce the over dependence and low skill foreign labor. I think in the meantime, what we need to have a support on certain quality amount of quality foreign workers to supplement the domestic workers in order for us to move towards what the IR4 in terms of the skills to support the demand. I think this is a very long overdue issues that government has yet to find a solution to balance what in terms of how to manage the foreign worker versus to support the industry as they progress towards the IR4, which is, I think we should have a holistic approach to foreign worker management. Perhaps it's time for us to set up a single ministry or a OS center, a one-stop center agency to manage the foreign worker. And we may consider some of the proposal like plow back the foreign worker levy into an industrial adjustment fund to support automation and innovation among the SME. The last priority is about ESG, sustainable product. It's time for us to incorporate this concept of sustainability product into Malaysia future industrial development, be integrated as part of the whole planning and management system of the government thinking thought process, and also to educate, to enhance awareness among the business enterprise. I think it's good that in the forthcoming MITI 4th Industrial Master Plan, there will be something more focused on ESG, sustainability, green initiative. And one of the pillar which from the Chinese Chamber we have proposed is to have an eco-green industrial park. So with that, I end my presentation. Thank you.